Hello and welcome back to another episode of You Want to Do What with Dan and Julie. Today we have Benedict on, who is a menswear writer, stylist and consultant. Hi Benedict, how are you?
Very well, thanks. Yourself?
All good. So do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about what you actually do?
Yeah, so I guess by trade, I'm a journalist working within the field of kind of menswear, and my background's in publishing, working for a range of different magazines. But then in the last kind of 6 months, maybe 9 months, it's kind of taken on a new course. But yeah, I started off when I was God, how long would it have been? In 2014, I think. I started off in magazines. Mm-hmm. And I just loved it. I just kind of loved the tactileness of it. And also kind of seeing your name, whether it be online or in print, was just always quite it was always a great feeling, to be honest. Very rewarding. And so I kind of did the natural course that anyone does when they enter that industry, and you intern and you intern and you intern and you do some more interns, and then eventually you get like a full-time contract, as they call it, which was a pretty good feeling as well. And so yeah, I started. My experience in kind of magazines ranges from weeklies to biannuals, basically. So it's quite across the board.
Mm-hmm. So was it more the fashion side or the journalist side that got you into it?
Fashion, definitely. I'm not trained as a journalist at all. I didn't study English at school. I didn't study English at university. I was never any good at it, to be really honest. It was yeah. I had my own class. I was so bad at it. But it was all for a love of clothes, really, and kind of like anyone who works in this industry. Started from a young age. I used to be really, really into streetwear, obsessed with it. I remember there used to be this website called Carmelu. I think it's now gone, but you could buy all this streetwear coming over from America. And myself and a few friends at school, we were just obsessed with this. And whatever little pocket money we had, we'd buy t-shirts and snapback caps and all that kind of thing. So it all started there. So I've always had a kind of an interest in clothes and all the kind of the culture that kind of surrounds it. But it's my kind of taste in clothing has changed drastically over the years.
So I think we all have.
What was sort of your journey? Obviously, you spoke about internships and things like that. So did you obviously go through school and then sort of at 16, 18 leave and becoming an intern somewhere?
No, so I left school in 2011 and then went to university. I went to university in Leeds, studied fine art, because that's what I was basically only good at school, was art. And so I went there and I didn't really make the most of it. Lots of stuff kind of went wrong in my personal life, and I kind of dropped out, not really knowing what to kind of do. And so I live in London, and my sister was living and working in Brixton at the time, and walked past an advert for a PR agency that needed an intern. Sent me a picture of it, and I called them up and said, "Hey, I'm interested." Went there the next day and got an internship. And it was kind of basically managing the showroom. So a showroom is kind of loads of different brands have all their clothing on display, and I kind of had to make sure it was neat and tidy, and all the hangers were 2 finger width apart from each other. Made shitloads of cups of tea, loads of runs to the post office, all that kind of stuff. It's all kind of part of a trade, part of a journey rather. So yeah, I started off there, so I didn't really have any kind of education in it. But then I kind of got into blogging at the time, I think. I've been wrong about the years, you know, so I got into blogging and just started really enjoying writing about streetwear and all that kind of stuff. And then I kind of realised I wanted to go into magazines, and found an internship and was there for 6 months. And I think I left that and then went to the Evening Standard magazine, interned there for a bit, then went to another one, and then another one, and maybe one more, and then eventually, and then I was desperate for a job. I was very fed up with it. I kind of paid my dues, definitely. And then there's that saying when you kind of wait for a bus and none come, and then suddenly all 3 come at the same time, and that's exactly what happened to me. I had 3 job offers on the same day.
Wow.
One was in One was in Berlin with Highsnobiety, some massive kind of streetwear publication media company. But I only had 2 weeks to get my stuff together and move out there.
Wow.
And then the other two were based in London, a magazine called The Rake, and another magazine called Gentleman's Journal. And I've got an uncle who's in the industry, and he was like, go to The Rake, it will open up so many doors. And it was kind of, and The Rake is a very much a luxury men's title, but it leans a lot more to kind of classic men's style and bespoke clothing and kind of champions artisanship and all that. And it was completely alien to me. I didn't know what bespoke was. I didn't know how shoes were made or anything like that, but I went for it. And that's when my kind of interest in fashion changed, having gone from a very streetwear kind of background to kind of talking about bespoke clothing and everything like that. And I found it fascinating because what I found fascinating about it was how these things were made, the hands that were making them and the stories behind the people who were making them. And some of these businesses that I was kind of writing about and visiting factories and everything like that, they've been around for hundreds and hundreds of years with royal warrants and kind of survived world wars and all that kind of stuff. I found that amazing, that kind of history element to it. And I've kind of stayed in that lane ever since.
I actually subscribe to the Gents Journal, and it's great. And like you say, all the stuff in there is so bespoke and it is high end, but you can tell it's quality as well. It must be so much fun to sort of write and find out about these companies and how they actually do what they do.
Yeah, well, I work with Gents Journal now, so I actually didn't go to Gents Journal back then. I went for the Rake, so. It was a real toss up. It was quite a hard decision, quite a tricky decision to make. But they're both in the same kind of category of menswear, basically, when it comes to publishing. Both rivals in a way. Actually, it was quite amusing hearing.
Are most people's sort of stories into the industry similar to yours, of just internships, or do people go to university, study specific fashion, and then go into journalism, or what?
It's a good question. No, a great friend of mine who he went to Oxford and studied English, and then so he went down that route and then came into it. And then I didn't go to university, but I also came to it. We were working together, so it's really, really different. But in terms of going to university and studying like fashion journalism or any of that stuff, I don't know anyone who's done it. Right. My honest opinion is it's completely pointless. Don't go to university and study fashion journalism in a bid to go get a job. Just start from the bottom. It's just the only way to do it.
Fair enough.
That gives you a lot of perspective, and it gives you a lot of respect as well. Well, you learn a lot of respect rather than it gives you. Well, actually, probably. So it's a real mixture of how people get into it. So.
And the other thing is, you obviously said that you're in journalism for the fashion. How come? Was it just you had that first internship and sort of just carried on in the media side of things rather than actually pursuing any other careers in fashion?
Well, yeah. So when I dropped out of university, I was quite wanting to go into design, and I was going to St. Martin's quite a lot, and I was speaking to a lot of people there, and I was kind of weighing up whether I wanted to go down the fashion design route, but it was another 4 years of university, a load of debt, and I just didn't. And I just didn't think it was, and also, it's. I mean, you've got to be like the best out of 200 to make it. Basically, it's really, really, really tough. So that was the only kind of possible route I had. I didn't want to go down the PR route, the marketing route. I just didn't want to do that. So it was either kind of the journalism side, the editorial side, or design and journalism editorial. That kind of made more sense, and it was a bit more realistic and achievable, if you like.
So what are some of the sort of average days for you like, to write about these companies and these fashion brands? Are you going to their shops, going to their factories, learning about them? What's an average day like?
Well, I guess you need to ask whether it's an average day now or average day pre all this. But before all that, yeah, I mean, when I was in working for this magazine, I was often heading up north to Northampton, where all the best shoes in the world are made, or going to Savile Row, Mayfair, and visiting a tailor and exploring how they make these beautiful garments. So there was a lot of out of the office kind of there was a lot of out of the office day-to-day kind of stuff. as well as kind of networking, working with PR agencies and kind of building up a contact book. So I was out of the office quite a lot, but that only meant that I had to make up the time at my computer. So day to day it's every day was different, which was what I really, really enjoyed about it. It wasn't mundane working for a magazine, because every morning something could land in your inbox and you had to go do something, or kind of an order could come from up top and you had to go speak to someone else. So I like the kind of variety of it, definitely, and it's fast paced as well. It's you can't kind of sit back and just go with it. You got to kind of be pretty proactive and go with it. Do you know what I mean?
How important is your network and building that sort of connections in the PR world and the fashion world? How important is that to you?
Very, very much so. Because I don't know, your reputation within the industry in terms of the PRs and brands know you is the platform on which you go from. So my time working within magazines was 5 years. So in that time I built up quite a good contact book. But then I went freelance in October last year, and suddenly my name's not tied to a magazine directly. I might work several ones, but as a result, I then need to send them an email off my personal email address. If that makes sense, and then go from there. So it's really, really important, that networking side, definitely. So you need to kind of get out there and promote yourself and make friends with these people, and because otherwise you're stuck. You're not going to get any. You're not going to be sent press releases. You're not going to be sent the possibility of writing an exclusive story, all that kind of thing. So it's crucial, definitely.
How do you go about starting to build that when you first get in the industry? I guess you're using the magazine's name to begin with.
Yeah, so it's you're not really told to do it, so you're going to kind of take it upon yourself to do it. And I guess you get that advice from maybe people higher up than you in the magazine. And if you see them out the office the whole time, you're probably wondering, like, what are they doing? Who are they seeing?
Yeah.
So like learn from that. And to be honest, no one in the industry wants to be at their computer the whole time. That's one of the great aspects of working in fashion, is that it's such a social industry. So if you could send an email to a PR and be like, it'd be great to catch up, breakfast, lunch, what do you want to do? That kind of thing. So you kind of take from that and you kind of start sending out invitations, if you like. And because if you work on the editorial side, the PR agency, the marketing agency, whatever, they always kind of take you out as well. So that's how it kind of works. So you've got to just be proactive and go out there and do it, and they're open to it as well, because it's a mutual exchange. They're getting pressed for their clients, and you're having fun whilst doing it.
Yeah. What would be some of the personality traits that you'd need to be in the media fashion industry?
Driven, definitely. I'd say that's like,
particularly with those first few years of internships.
Yeah, it's a highly competitive industry. It's dog eat dog world. Like there aren't many magazines, many good ones.
Well, I suppose this. I don't think we could go the whole episode without mentioning The Devil That Wears Prada. Is it as cutthroat as that?
Well, I work in menswear.
So it's worse, or
it's a lot better. It's a lot better, and I've never paid any attention to women's wear. I from friends and kind of what you hear on the grapevine is, I think it is in some ways.
Oh wow.
Certainly, like I couldn't handle it. I got two very good friends of mine work for. They've worked for magazines. There's two major kind of publishing houses called Condé Nast and Hearst. So if you imagine Esquire and GQ and Vogue and Tatler and Elle magazine, all those ones, they're all basically part of these two publishing houses.
Okay.
And two great friends of mine worked in both of them, and I've heard some horror stories, definitely on the women's wear side.
Yeah,
the men's wear side, not so much. Take from that what you will, I guess. But yeah, there are some. I personally never experienced any kind of Zeballs wear Prada moments.
I suppose going back to the personality you talked about, you need to be driven. I guess you need to be confident, because if you're taking these people out for lunch, you need to have a bit about you, a bit of chat.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So you got to be driven. You got to be confident. I mean, you've really got to love it as well. I don't think you should go into this industry with kind of being on the fence as to whether you want to do it. No, you need to love it, because that will be evident when you're speaking to people, and you can always tell if someone's passionate about what they do, and I think that will take you very far. Organised is another one. I mean, there are so many moving parts to it. You've got deadlines coming out your ears. You've got meetings to attend. All that kind of stuff. What else would you have to be? And also just a nice person.
Yeah.
No one's got any time for like dickheads in this industry.
No, yeah, 100%.
But yeah, no one's got any time for it. Like, and no one will want to work with you. So you need to be a nice, personable individual.
Obviously, fashion's quite a tactile thing. You know, it's all about textures is quite a big thing in fashion. How has it actually changed for you not being able to get out there and see people and get involved a little bit more?
Really difficult. Really difficult. And also it kind of, I don't know, you're writing about things and you can't actually get hands on with them. So as a result, you need to have good ground knowledge of what you're talking about. So it's been really difficult in that respect. I mean, there's one of the great things about working in the area of fashion that I do is that there's I go to Italy a lot. There's a trade show that happens in Florence twice a year in January and June called Pitti Uomo.
Oh, I really want to go to that. I've seen that all over Instagram. I really want to go there. It looks brilliant.
Brilliant. It goes on for a whole week. Everyone's like-minded. Everyone's there for a good time. Everyone there's got a story to tell you. And that, so twice a year I went to that, and that's kind of where you find a lot of your stories, and you find a lot of the new brands you want to tell people about. And that, I was there in January, and June got cancelled, and they pushed it back to September, and that got cancelled. So there's been a whole season where you can't really get hands on with anything. I mean, only day before yesterday, I had my first kind of press appointment since beginning of March, which was great. It was like quite a relief in some ways. Nice to talk to people again and actually see them, and not having these kind of email conversations the whole time. So it is really important to get out there and actually get hands on the product, but there's no really way around it unless you can be there. Yeah.
Do you have a kind of process to writing your articles? I guess, being in such publications as the Rake and the Gents Journal, there's obviously a standard there to the writing that you need to adhere to. What's your process?
Get as many quotes as possible. I mean, even if it's let's say you have to do a 600-word article, and you might only need 5, 6, 7 quotes, but get on the phone to that person for an hour and a half if you can, and if they've got time. So try and extract as much information from the subject or the whoever you're interviewing, or from the brand, and then it's I don't know. It's quite a difficult question as to how you do it. There's definitely a way to it. It's kind of, but it's also dependent on what magazine you're writing for. So and it also depends what the content is. So if it's editorial and you can create a kind of flowery, interesting story, that's one thing. But then if you're writing something to sell something, you then need to approach it with like a commercial head. So there are very, very different sides to it. But it not sound like a complete cliche, but it kind of writes itself. But I guess that comes with experience. So that's terrible advice, but
that's right. It's honest.
Yeah.
And what's some of the biggest positives and opportunities you've taken out of this? I mean, you've mentioned you go to Italy. You've looked like you've done some great stuff. Your Instagram, there's always loads of great stuff on there. So yeah, what's some of the biggest positives and opportunities you've taken from this?
So definitely travel. When I was with the Rake magazine, I was traveling the whole time. and that was amazing. I kind of miss it. I was going to Italy maybe 6 times a year, probably.
Wow.
So there's that side to it, and the people you meet. I've made some really, really, really good friends in this industry, who I would happily meet up with on the weekend. It's not kind of like a Monday to Friday friendship, but to be honest, there's a lot of those things that happens in this industry. So there's travel, there's friendship, and there's also kind of, touched upon it earlier, but kind of getting hands-on with beautiful clothing. Clothing that's being made in such a slow, painstaking way, and a lot of love has gone into each garment, whether it's a shoe, whether it's a jacket, whether it's a tie, something like as nondescript as that. And I think it's kind of, learning about those processes is something I really value, because you know about it for the rest of your life. And I'm a bit of a nerd for detail, so for me that's one of the great aspects. What else? Probably those 3. I mean, and if any journalist who works in menswear says this isn't one of the great aspects, they're lying. But you do get quite a lot of free stuff, and that's
that's always a bonus.
Yeah, it's always a bonus. It's always a bonus. Like, do you want? Yeah, okay, I'll have it.
Yeah, go on if you insist.
I mean, it just balances out the pay in some ways, but it's so that's another one, definitely, but not the most important one.
Would you be able to sort of define your personal style now? Have you sort of catered it? You mentioned you really liked streetwear when you were younger, but as you've grown up, is it sort of a bit more classic now?
So I kind of went from wearing streetwear and kind of bold graphic t-shirts and caps and kind of loose trousers and sneakers and all that kind of stuff. And then I kind of went into this world of the rake, and I now need to wear suits. But you don't want to look like a corporate penguin. And you don't want a navy suit and just all that kind of stuff. So but because of my kind of streetwear roots and inverted commas, I was always dressing it down. Dressing down tailoring is kind of that one kind of buzzword that everyone uses. But so rather than wearing suit, shirt and tie, it's kind of suit with a t-shirt, suit with a roll neck. I mean, not particularly groundbreaking, but comfortable, but smart and quite relaxed. But now I don't need to wear suits as much. In fact, I haven't worn a suit since beginning of March.
Wow.
I like it. I haven't put on a jacket since beginning of March. So it's kind of, but I've got quite into vintage menswear recently. I think there are amazing stories to be told there. And I think the way the world's going at the moment, I think that's what people are going to want to be connecting to. It's not such a fickle kind of season after season kind of design or creation. It's kind of been around for my favorite article of clothing is from the Vietnam War. It's 50 years old, and I wear it, and I probably wear it twice a week. And so kind of garments with a story behind them I find really, really interesting, and I try and wear it. But I don't, and I've said it to people before, like I don't have as big a wardrobe as someone might think, because you don't need a lot. I mean, I'd love to have a walk-in wardrobe, but I don't have enough for it.
It sounds like they're more personal to you than...
Yeah. And I think at one stage I'd love to have just like a walk-in wardrobe with a suit in every different color of the rainbow, but that's not realistic, and it's just unnecessary. And
I think I get bored of it. It looks cool in the wardrobe, but
it's consuming too much. It's not necessary. So it's kind of find what's worked for you and just stick with that. And I honestly think what I wear now is probably what the clothes and styles, the clothes I wear now and the way I style it are probably going to be the same for the next.
And what would be some of the less favourable aspects of the job?
Well, again, this is kind of do you mean now when I'm now?
Both.
I mean, it's notorious. It's notorious for being known as not being a particularly high-paying industry, but I'm not in it to make big bucks and own a Ferrari. It's not what I'm in it for. So that would be one of the negatives, and it's not a 9 to 5. Definitely not. If you've got a deadline, you've got a deadline. If you need to do it 12 at night, or you need to wake up at 5 in the morning to do it, you've got to do it. But that balances out with if you love it, then it's not really work. So I honestly consider myself really lucky to have found an industry, to have found a trade that I really, really enjoy, and as a result doesn't really feel like work. So I don't have many kind of bad things to say about it whatsoever, but you just got to love it as a result.
Yeah.
We kind of talking a bit about money. We like to sort of go away and look for average income stats for the industry, and we sort of found journalism, maybe not so much fashion journalism, but across the board, maybe from 20 to sort of 35,000. Does that sit right with you in your experiences?
At what stage? At what stage is this?
So this is somebody with maybe 5 years experience.
25 to, what did you say, 35?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 25 to 35.
Yeah, with 5 years experience, definitely. That's perhaps what you probably sit within that.
And what about sort of starting? I know you said there's a lot of interning. What kind of thing can they expect at that level?
Around the 20 mark.
Okay.
I think I started on 22.
Okay.
But I'd been interning for 2.5 years. But some people I know started on less than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so somewhere around that, I'd say is a starting out salary.
Okay.
What's the kind of high end for your sort of industry?
Well over 6 figures, definitely. I'm sure. Wow. I'm sure editors at the big magazines are on clearing 250.
Wow.
Okay. What would be some?
There are only so many of those positions. So it's
of course, yeah.
So, probably max how much it can go to, probably.
Wow.
What would be something that's probably not in the job description you didn't realise you had to deal with day to day?
I just said it. It's not a 9 to 5. It's
okay.
Not, it's if there's work to be done, you've got to do it. And I've cancelled plans before last minute. For instance, an advertorial could come in at the last minute. So an advertorial is paid editorial, basically. And the publisher of the company could be like, look, Ben, this so-and-so has just paid us. He wouldn't actually probably tell me what we'd paid it, but so-and-so has just paid us X amount. We need to get an online article up now. And it's like, oh, well, it's my mum's birthday. And she's like, no, you got to do it. Maybe not as extreme as that, but you kind of get the gist of it. Often cancel plans, and that's not in the job description. But everything else is pretty clear and straightforward, probably.
So what's the future of this industry going forward? Obviously, sort of magazine numbers are kind of falling away a bit, but the online stuff is growing. Where do you see the future of the industry going?
Well, this is the thing. So I've worked in magazines for a number of years, and now I'm freelance, and there's more money to be made in kind of in content creation. So a lot of what I do now is kind of working directly with brands and just improving their online image, whether that's with editorial, whether that's with copywriting, whether that's with art direction, styling, modeling, all that kind of thing. And that's where the money is, because brands can't rely on a single 2 collections a year, or they can't rely on fashion shows or anything like that. People are consuming content at such a terrifying rate that there needs to be newness the whole time.
Yeah.
Brands are now pulling back advertising spend on magazines and then putting it into kind of their own kind of content creation systems, if you like, and then outsourcing it to people. So that's where I come in. So I think that's the future, and it has been the future for a few years now.
I guess they're all trying to, in a way, create their own, their own magazines, for a better word, to bring people into their brand sort of organically.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's a serious fashion brand on earth that doesn't have Instagram.
Yeah.
And if you're just posting images,
I think there's anything these days if you don't have Instagram.
Yeah, so but there needs to be constant newness coming in. You need to keep people engaged, you need to keep people interested, you need to get people buying, and as a result, you've got to surprise them. You've got to kind of pique their interest and everything like that.
With the way social media has sort of come more popular, have you found you've had to sort of increase just the amount you've had to get out, or are you still sort of writing quite in-depth sort of articles still?
So I'm quite a bad example of this because I don't do enough.
Okay.
I don't do enough on my own Instagram. I used to do a lot. I mean, when I was at the Rake magazine, whilst I was at the Rake magazine, it turned into an e-commerce business, like so many magazines are now doing. And as a result, it had all this product coming in on a weekly basis, and it needed to be shot. It needed to be put on someone, and I was kind of the guinea pig, the clothes horse, the mannequin for that. And as a result, I had all these images of myself, and so I started promoting myself, and it was working. The kind of engagement, followers, whatever, were going up. But I now don't do enough of it. Not because I don't have the images myself. It's just because it's just time consuming.
Yeah.
And it's just constantly promoting yourself is just. I'd rather put that time and energy into writing for other people or kind of getting new clients on board or whatever. But it is really, really important. And some people do it brilliantly. Some people don't do it at all. I mean, you've got some of the best journalists out there don't have an Instagram.
Yeah.
But it's really case by case basis. If that makes sense.
How do you even begin to start to sort of create noise in the fashion world? Because it's such a saturated market. Well, what kind of things are you looking to do?
As a journalist or as a kind of
as a journalist and working with these brands, what are you what are you suggesting to them? Because it's such a saturated market. How do you get any sort of leverage these days?
Yeah, I mean it's such a saturated market. You're right, and there's so much of what you see out there is just same. But finding something that's generally kind of interesting, groundbreaking, profound is a challenge. But quite often, a lot of brands don't want to kind of take a risk or anything. I mean, one of my clients, I'm trying to do something that without. God, I don't really want to give it away, to be honest. But it's pushing the boundaries within kind of the fields of disability, if you like.
Okay.
But going about it in a very endearing, but really listening to the issues at hand with sorry, I'm trying to be quite cryptic, but really listening to the issues that kind of these group of people kind of encounter with their disabilities, and then using that as a way to talk about it and promote it with a client I'm working with.
Okay, interesting.
And that as a project, as a campaign, is something that would probably generate quite a lot of press coverage. And actually have some meaning and substance behind it, because so much of what you see on Instagram or on the internet, just there's nothing behind it. It's just someone wearing clothes and looking quite cool.
Yeah.
What does that really do? Apart from increasing your engagement or whatever. So finding projects, or coming up with projects and ideas to actually make a difference is difficult because it is so saturated.
How does somebody, a young journalist within the fashion world, start to progress within the industry? What are the things they can do to stand out?
Well, social media is one of them.
Is it just probably just a good work ethic? Really throwing yourself at everything that comes your way, I suppose.
Yeah, but have a point of difference, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's that, and then it's just, I guess it comes back to what we spoke about earlier, is networking. If people see you, go to events. I mean, this feels like a lifetime ago, but like before COVID, fashion events like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there's always something going on.
Yeah,
let's go to them. It might be 7 till 9, and you might want to go home and sit on the sofa. But if you meet one person there, and that person is a great connection, then it's all worth it. So it's just committing to it. It's just really putting yourself out there, because no one will ever see you, and you'll just kind of get lost within the industry, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you still go into the fashion and media industry, knowing all you know now?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know what else I'd do. Yes. I've loved it. I've loved every minute of it. There's been really, really challenging times. I mean, this year's been incredibly difficult. It's very, very difficult to kind of get commissions, and your retainers, your monthly retainers have maybe taken a hit. So financially, it's been very, very difficult this year, and it makes you wonder, is it really worth it, all this stuff? But of course it is. So I definitely would. I don't know what else I'd do. I was thinking about scrapping it all and going into boxing journalism, but then that would have been hit as well, because that didn't happen.
Yeah.
No fights have been happening. So I don't know what else I would do.
Do you think you've got the skills to potentially move to different journalism then? Now you've been in the media world for a while.
How different?
Well, you spoke about boxing or something.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I like to think so. I like to think I can write about anything. I mean, my speciality is definitely lie in talking about kind of artisanal menswear and heritage brands and everything like that. That's what I really, really enjoy and get a kick from. But I think if you're a writer, you can apply that to lots of different things. Anything I probably
same with fashion. Do you reckon you could go somewhere else within fashion? Maybe not design, but something else.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's what I'm part of a content and digital development agency now. Which takes up quite a lot of my time. My profile, I think, Studiograph, and so that kind of encompasses writing, copywriting, that kind of thing. But then there's also art direction. There's also styling and all that. But actually, I don't know why I didn't say this earlier. I would love to eventually have my own brand or have my own store. Awesome. I think it would be a store. And I've got a pretty good idea about what exactly it would be and where, but it's just finding the money to do it.
Yeah. What kind of vein would that be? What kind of sort of fashion?
So it would be menswear. It'd be just be. It's not fashion at all. It's kind of like timeless menswear, the stuff you'll wear.
Okay. Yeah.
But the knack with it is just to have incredibly well-informed sales assistants who know their product knowledge. They know exactly how these trousers are made. They know exactly where those shoes were made and what they look good with and everything like that. But then within the store, you kind of create a community atmosphere.
Yeah.
You really kind of drive towards having regular customers who come back and back and back. And then, but the most difficult thing is, well, I know where it would be, but it's just the capital that you need to get something like that off the ground.
Yeah.
But have a barber shop in there. There's retail. Everyone talks about retail, bricks and mortar retail being on its arse, and it is. Like things like Selfridges and Harrods, like they're dinosaurs. But they're kind of the specialist retail store that sticks to what it knows.
And does it very well.
Great staff, but then also offers something else. Like, you want to come in and drop in for a coffee, or if it's past a certain hour, have a drink with us. And actually, we've got a barber in the back if you need a haircut, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Create somewhere that men feel relevant, special, and wanted, and can communicate with like-minded people. I think, but keep it small, keep it niche, because I think that's where the power is. Because I think as soon as you think beyond that, and you go beyond those parameters, you're just lost in the wild with everyone else.
Well, you're incredibly well placed to sort of pursue something like that. Like you say, you just need the capital now.
Yeah. Have you guys got any?
I wish.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, that's eventually. But I mean, I'm in my mid-20s, so I think maybe that'll be something when I'm in 10 years' time. And when having kind of built up that contact book, and especially with brands who make beautiful products and things like that. So it's all a work in progress. But I think within the fashion industry, there's so much space in which to kind of evolve and try different things. I think that's one of the great aspects of it, that you can kind of dip your toes in lots of different things. I mean, I'm doing some PR for a brand at the moment. I thought I'd never do that again, but actually it's quite rewarding. To get journalists who you know of responding to an email that they have no idea it's actually come from you is quite interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I don't put my name at the bottom of it. So doing all sorts of different things. And that's the great thing. That's why I would recommend to anyone who's thinking about becoming a fashion brackets menswear journalist, is that it's a small enough industry that you can try out different things.
It sounds great. It sounds like there's a lot of travel involved. There's loads of different areas you can apply, loads of different skill sets. And thank you so much for coming on, Benedict. We've really enjoyed chatting with you.
Pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Do you want to shout out your Instagram?
Yeah, it's at Benedict_Browne with an E on the end.
Thank you, Benedict. It's been awesome talking to you.
Cheers, guys. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.